back to the Drum Radio Show. Man, we got a great show lined up for you tonight. So sit back, relax, put your feet up. You're on the Drum Radio Show at drumradio.com. And in the house, Jack Scarangella, Buddy Rich's adopted son. Not legally, but Buddy Rich's adopted son, Jack Scarangella. He's here, and we're going to play him right now. He's a great guy, and he's got a lot of great stories. So sit back and relax, man, because we got 80 minutes coming at you with Jack Scarangella. To the Steve Marcus Memorial here in New York City. Steve Marcus was probably the second voice on the bandstand besides Buddy Rich himself, and I was introduced to this fellow drummer. This is Buddy Rich's adopted son. I never knew Buddy had an adopted son. I was just astonished. After talking with this man, I found he was privy to a world no other could be part of but the son of the great Buddy Rich. I have found that this man knows a great many people, very, very famous, not excluding most of the New York Yankees, which Buddy was a huge fan of. This list includes Mickey Mantle, Bernie Williams, Paul O'Neill, New York Mets manager Willie Randolph, icon New York Jets quarterback Joe Namath, folklore music legend Richie Havens, even Babatunde Aladunja. Not excluding Phil Rizzuto, Felix Cavalieri of the Rascals, Don Mattingly, and the great and famous Gene Krupa himself, just to name a few. Who else could be privileged to a world known none to others but the son of Buddy Rich? This man is a fellow drummer. He has a CD out that is simply beautiful in music and inspirational, the CD being The Hero in Us All. It is with great pleasure I welcome to the Drum Radio Show in the house on Drum Radio, Jack Scarangella.
Oh, thank you, Rick.
Welcome, Jack.
Well, I tell you, with that intro, the movie can't be far behind.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Listen.
It's very humbling, you know.
Oh, man. You know, it was
all my heroes.
It was just a privilege meeting you, man. It was just so great that when I attended Steve Marcus's memorial, that I was introduced to you as Buddy Rich's adopted son. I was astonished. I was like, wow.
He was the father figure I so longed for, coming from an abusive father. So,
well, let's take it from there. Let's take it right from there. How did you meet Buddy?
Well, it was almost like a dream, and still is. I mean, I miss him every second of my life, as do a lot of people that have stories on him of genuine inspiration. I'm sure all over the world, everybody has an image or a story on this beautiful man. But with me, I wanted to be, as a kid, you wanted to be Mickey Mantle, you know, Sandy Koufax, Bobby Bonds, Whitey Ford. That was it for me. You know, you had the stance like millions of kids, you know, in the Bronx. You wanted to pose like Mickey, you know. And actually, when I was in the top mezzanine of the Yankee Stadium, I didn't believe he existed. It was only, you know, Channel 11, WPIX, and you just didn't think Mickey Mantle was real. And so when I went to the stadium, and I still have that same feeling as I go in there, there was a big blow up under the concession stand of Lou Gehrig wiping his eyes on Lou Gehrig Day, and I knew automatically in my heart that this was the place the Mick was, you know, and I waited to see him, you know, go out to center. When I saw the seven go out in the green meadows, he made me actually dream I can be somebody. So Mickey was very inspirational to me on that, you know, all the way on the top mezzanine. So when you have, I guess, what I tell, you know, kids or whatever, or teenagers, you got to have something to believe in. You got to have somebody that opens a door for you. So I was watching television one time in my ball uniform, played for the Owls, you know, and around Mount Vernon. I think there was a stadium across the way from Parkway Field, which is now Glover Field. But I was a great, pitcher. I had a fastball. That was it. And some people said, well, drumming, you couldn't, your path could maybe not have been drumming if you learned how to pitch off your legs or turn the seams of the ball. And so anyway, I would strike out, I had a good fastball. So 13 guys a game, I was pretty good. And then one time I saw the lights at Memorial Field across the way. And Pete Paradise, this beautiful man who was taking care of all of us in the field, and generations loved Pete. I said, "Oh, big game tonight, Pete?" And he says, "No, big concert, Buddy Rich and the Checkmates." And my eyes widened, Rick, like I can't tell you. I had the pang in my heart, and I was in my little glove, and I was looking at the lights, and I couldn't believe it because I had watched previously a Hollywood Palace show, thinking, what am I going to do in life, or what can I be? I don't know if nobody's going to be Mickey Mantle, or will I ever play for the New York Yankees? I don't know. That looks like that might not happen. So I saw this man. His face came on first, and there was a face of sheer enjoyment. He was enjoying every second of what was going on, and I looked at this face, and it was mesmerizing to me. Had my gloves, sitting there watching him, and I waited to see who he was, and then all of a sudden they panned down, and this glistening cymbals, white marine pearl drum set. His hands were like the wind and swift, but almost like a ballet dancer the way he was playing. So he was so sensitive, fast, and streamlined that I couldn't believe it. It was just it was shock. And so I waited to the end of the program. I must have been 11 years old or something, and before I went to the game, to see who this person was. And then the credits rolled, and they said Buddy Rich and his orchestra, and I went, Buddy Rich, maybe drums, maybe I can take care of my mother or find my way out. Drums, maybe I can be a musician. Well, okay, Buddy Rich, wow. And so when I saw the lights at Memorial Field and in my Little League uniform, I couldn't believe that he was close to my town, because Pelham is, that's where I went to school. That was sort of where my whole crossroads came about, and so there was this concert, and I sort of rolled over the bridge, walked slowly to the lights, went around to and then there was a police officer at the gate, and of course I forgot, you need money. This is a concert. And the police officer looked at me and just said, go ahead, kid, don't tell anybody, but go ahead, go in. And I always think, who's going to say no to a kid in a ball uniform? I mean, so this police officer was so kind to me, and I went to the field and saw the set of drums with the BR logo, and that was enough for me. It was almost like Mickey Mantle. He exists. And I just put myself to the right, and it was thousands of people there, and I just waited for the Checkmates to come on. And in those days, as you know, Rick, I mean, the bands were the heroes back then. Every record was changing your life. So jazz, every medium was flourishing. It was just every week your life would get changed with an artist that was coming out with a record. So Buddy was like top of his game. I mean, he was a phenomenon. So I couldn't believe he was going to walk out. And the Checkmates were incredible. Sweet Louie, their show was incredible. What a band.
Now, this was during the 70s or the 60s?
This has got to be early 70s.
Early 70s.
Maybe 60, 69, 70.
Okay.
Yeah, and they were just incredible.
Yeah, they were incredible, man.
The Checkmates, they just were incredible. And then all of a sudden, the lights dimmed, and then they went back on, and that light would always go on the hi-hats, on those drums. That really, I mean, that's like seeing the 7 Yankee pinstripes or DiMaggio's number 5 or the Scooters 10, whatever. It was so precious. And then the man walked out with a cigarette, dressed elegantly, immaculately, turtleneck, slacks, and boots, and just swaggered over to the drum set and just lit the whole night in a rainbow kind of fiery sky with his hands were like a swirl. It was like he just went on the hi-hats and danced, and it was just like on clouds. And right then, I knew that's what I want to be.
Wow.
I want to play drums.
Wow.
And you of course, you want to be like your heroes, or you want to emulate, and they're the inspiration. So I just was moved, like millions of people are moved by watching him, or just listening to him, or he was just something. He had everything in communication that a musician. I mean, he transcended the drums into an art form. So the drums were just a messenger for jazz and the art form of music. And he himself as a person was one of the pillars, of communication to the world. I think he made people dream. So that was it. And as soon as he finished, I mean, I ran.
Jack, I don't want to interrupt you, but there were only a few people in this world that could do exactly that. And
yes.
On that list, I would have Buddy Rich, number one, because of the drums. Gene Krupa right underneath him.
He put the D in drums, Buddy told me.
And then Frank Sinatra.
Oh yes, Mr.
And then Elvis.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
There hasn't been anybody, in music to do what those guys did since.
Well, I mean, I gotta put in John Lennon.
John Lennon. Okay, I'll give you that.
I got to put in the Beatles, but John, to me...
Paul McCartney's still going on, man, so he's still making music.
Yeah, I mean, those artists will live forever. They're timeless.
Forever, man.
Sure.
But, every 20 or 30 years, man, you come across a musician or an artist that just changes the world.
Yes.
And
absolutely.
those guys did.
And then it leaves you, it's timeless if it's great music or they played their craft so special. Remember, I mean, he was 7 years old in the vaudeville act, Traps the Drum Wonder. I mean, he was playing to audiences at 7 before the family moved to Brooklyn. He was already
he was a seasoned professional, man, already. He started playing at 18 months old. But let's get back to Memorial Field, where you were in there, and you were at this concert that you were let in there. How did you meet the great Buddy Rich? I mean, would you just walk up to him and said, "Hey, how you doing?"
I ran over to the stage. They had that big stage and the stairs, and I ran. I mean, I wanted. He was going towards his bus. That was in the back.
Wow.
And I my Little League uniform, I ran over to the side and I was yelling. I was going, "Mr. Rich, Mr. Rich, Mr. Rich." And then the police officer said, "Oh, that's as far as you go."
Wow.
And I heard this voice go, "Hey, let the kid in, will you?"
Wow.
And it was Buddy.
Holy smoke.
And I ran to him. I mean, I ran to him like I knew him for a lifetime.
Wow.
And I started to talk, and I can feel the emotion right now in me. I started to talk to him about seeing him on the Hollywood Palace, and, I have a tough situation at home, and he started to zoom in on me. I can see his eyes, and I'm sure you can. When he really focused, he gave you everything you had. If you were telling him the truth, he went right at you.
Yeah.
And I could still see his eyes because I started to telling my story serious, and I said, now that I've seen you, I want to be just like you. I want to play drums,
Wow.
And he put his arm around me, and it was like a soft pillow. I mean, it was a gentle arm. I'm in music, or when you're playing drums, or when you're doing anything, it's all about feeling anyway, as you know. So I still remember how that felt. And he led me to the drums after, the concert, and it just had so much energy. And you're looking at the set that he just played and changed your life and put you on a path that, you don't know where you're going to go, but he's going to be with you to this day as we're speaking right now. And you saw the sticks, and he gives me the sticks. And I jump off the 8-foot stage. I just run with the sticks, and I put it in my, belt. I didn't have a belt in my uniform pants, Little League uniform, so I jump off. The sticks go through my legs because the elastic was loose. And there's Buddy at the top of the stage, smiling and laughing, and he looks at me and he goes, "Jack," he said, "if your parents let you out, you come right to this bus, and we will hang together, okay? If your parents let you." And that was the start of a relationship which was to be a sort of like an unspoken for my entire life with him.
Wow.
Yeah, and it just started like that. And
I mean, how did he call you and stuff? I mean, he called you up, "Hey, Jack, how you doing?" and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I would make all the shows. For some reason, I would make all the shows like in New York, around the tri-state, Sandy's, Lenny's on the Turnpike, or in the recording studios with him. And sometimes by chance, he would be playing, through the years, when I would be with a great Jersey band called La Bamba and the Hubcaps, that they play with the Conan O'Brien band, and I would be on the bus with him. I said, "Well, I'm playing the next night," and he would kind of smile at me. He goes, "La Bamba and the Hubcaps," and he give me that grin, and then he looked at me. I go, "Yeah, but they're a great band. You got to hear Richie Rosenberg on the trombone and Ed Mannion on the sax." And he goes, "Okay, as long as you're working, Jack. All right, okay."
Cool.
That was the way he approached everything. As long as you're working, and there's always another season. That's what I loved about him. There's always another season to better yourself or to change somebody's life 2 houses down. I mean, that was the guy. He never forgot that Brooklyn. That was the Brooklyn guy in him, and he was just a dream. And did he speak to you like what he did in his life? Yeah, I mean, we'd have conversations. I mean, through a lot of the times.
We all knew him like through the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and the Merv Griffin Show and Mike Douglas and stuff like that. But we didn't really know him like the way you know him.
Well, I mean he adored Johnny Carson, Mr. Carson.
He did, man. He did.
Yes. Of course, nobody will ever be like Mr. Carson, and it was an honor for me to send Mr. Carson my record and get a letter back from him, and I sent him a video of me playing drums, and he watched the video in his office. And
he was a drummer himself.
Oh yeah, but his hero was Buddy. He emulated Buddy when he was in high school.
Yes.
He knew his whole history, like all of us know.
Yeah.
It's almost like the back of a baseball card with Mantle or Guidry or Catfish. You know your hero's whole history, and it doesn't get. What they did on the show. I mean, you saw the camaraderie, the brotherhood between them, but it was such a wacko, fast timing sense of humor that they had because they were both geniuses.
You know how true that is, Jack? How true that is, because, I want to tell you something. A couple years back, I was talking about Buddy on this show, around his anniversary, and a fan of the show emailed me and said, "Hey, I spent the last 30 years of my life taping every Tonight Show and Merv Griffin show that Buddy was on." And he sent me a copy of that VHS. It's got to be at least 2.5 hours long. And all it is it's Buddy on the Tonight Show, Buddy on the Merv Griffin Show, Buddy on the Tonight Show, on the Tonight Show, on the Tonight Show, on the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
Even his daughter Kathy was on the Tonight Show.
Kathy,
it's just incredible. That's where I get all my material for the show. When I do Buddy's Buddies, because it's unbelievable.
Well, the fast wit that the two of them had.
Oh, they had. It was incredible, man. It was just magic.
Buddy would sometimes wear a sweater. He loved to wear sweaters when he was playing. And Mr. Carson would say, it's great to do this with such a wool sweater on here.
No.
You look like Harold Teen. Hey, we're going to the movies, And then Buddy would pause in perfect timing, and he would look at Mr. Carson and go, "Look at that suit." And then Mr. Carson would crack up. He goes, yeah, you're right.
It's true, and he always kid him about his pencils.
And the pencils, and
because Johnny Carson would be always, tapping the pencils on the desk.
Give the Kleenex to him after he put the band away. I mean, but then there was Snooky Young and Shaughnessy.
Oh,
and they all adored him. And Severinsen. That's probably, we'll never see a band like that on television ever. I think Grady Tate on drums, Ed Shaughnessy. Ernie Watts on sax, led by Mr. Severinsen. I mean, what a show! What a show is correct. That was America. That was it. And of course, led by Ed McMahon and Mr. Carson. But when
Hi-yo!
when Buddy would come on, it was magical. I mean, because when Mr. Carson loves somebody on the show or admires somebody, you can sense it. And I mean, he adored Buddy. He did. He really did. No, he really did. They enjoyed each other's company, even to the extent outside the show where they visited each other, at their homes. And you said something to me when we were talking a while back, but one time at the Blue Note, that week that I spent with him, which was to be that last engagement, I think he played one high school, wow. And then he did the thing with Mr. Torme, which went back to his history with the Dorsey Band. But one guy came up in the barrel of the bus, and I would sit, in the front. And sometimes when I'd sit with him, it was a beautiful experience because everybody would come ask for the autograph, all wow. walks of life and kids, and they would just, and he would sit there very so proud. I would be looking at him like he was the end all because I just loved him. He was. I said to Kathy, the last thing, Rick, I loved about him when he passed was his drumming. That's what I said to Kathy. Well, you knew him personally. Yeah, I mean, everything else, the kindness, and I'm talking about kindness that came out of this brilliant genius, how he went around the world and understood the cultures of the world, and how he exemplified actually peace and love through the way he played. Very few musicians, as you said, with Elvis, Lennon, can transcend their art into where you get something peaceful when you leave, or you get some inspiration. That was Buddy. Yeah, that was. He gave to everybody, and then when he would leave the bandstand, what I got was, I got the best of him. I got that soul traveler. I would listen all the time, and see the how he would talk, and someone came up on the barrel I was saying of the bus and said, there's a guy in England that's just like Johnny Carson, and he's got his own TV show. And Buddy looked, and he goes, "Oh yeah, is that right?" He goes, "Yeah." And then, okay, and he signs the autograph to the guy, and the guy says, great show and everything, and he leaves. And I'm looking at him, waiting for, really, is this true? And he looks at me and goes, Jack, nobody's like Carson. You're right. And that's when You're right. You get taught. And there was a weekly show. I don't know the going to be Elvis. I don't know the guy's name, but the guy had a weekly show. It wasn't an every night show. Johnny Carson played 5 nights a week, Monday through Friday. Yep. And this cat had a weekly show in England on the BBC. Yep. And that was Johnny Carson's response. Yeah, but he's a weekly. I'm every night. Mr. Carson, he was great, man. He was a great genius for what he did. Oh, no, yeah, and when he wrote me, his line in this beautiful letter, he said, it's certainly clear you were influenced by Buddy, and keep swinging. I enjoyed the tape of your video of you drumming, and this beautiful letter, which I was shocked to even get a response. How great! I just wanted to give him this because of the I guess the feeling of letting him know there's someone out there, because Buddy had said on the Tonight Show, there's a young kid in New York, Jack Scarangelli. You may not know him now, but you will, is going to do what I do, because Mr. Carson said, is there anybody out there? And I know what Buddy was saying is to keep that standard, because there'll never be him, of Buddy Rich, but there'll be someone that can emulate the standard of the way he played, his concept, or to take it a step further. Because he said to me in '86, and he was passed in '87. We were in his apartment, and I said, what am I going to do when it comes my time to, play or whatever? And he says, when it comes time for you to play, Jack, he said, say something for the children. I said, the children? I said, what children? He said, say something for the children. He said, look at your life. Look how many people love you. When it comes your time to say it, say something for the children. I walked out of 61st that night. What is he talking about? And I realized that some people, if they love you, they know what you're going to do before you do it. And so the hero in us all, my concept was just what I believed and what I was taught by my heroes and what I lived. And he understood what I was going to do. So he made me take that courageous step and put together that kind of vision. Because if it wasn't for him and Joe Namath, that's the truth, it really is. I wouldn't have had the philosophy or the fundamentals of life if it wasn't for those two guys and those two heroes, those two father figure, brother figure. And they just happened to be, for all of us, heroic inspirations. But to me, they were, dear friends, father figure, somebody that Joe gives you a security when you're 13, and he was rocketing 60,000 people, fading back to pass, 50-mile-an-hour winds at Shea, and nobody played the game of football like Joe Namath.
No, you're right.
Nobody, and he transcended, and he was Elvis's hero. I mean, Elvis adored Joe, and Mr. Sinatra, everybody, because he was different, and Buddy was different, and and Mr. Krupa was different. Like Buddy said to me, he put the D in drums, and I said, well, you must have finished all the other words. That's what I said as we were sitting on the couch watching the ball game. And he said, no, there was Tony Brigula, Jack. There was Big Sid Catlett, and he would be so artistically expressive. He would say, well, I think it was Tony Brigula had a roll like milk, he would say.
Wow.
And I just said, wow. How pristine a roll is that if it's like milk?
Holy smoke.
And that's the way he would discuss things. He would play Ship Ahoy that he was in with Joe Stafford and I think it was with the Dorsey Band, and he would play certain moves, or he would just look at me and just say, "Did you get that?" Subliminally, and I would shake my head and I go, "Yeah, I got it." It was we never really discussed drums, believe it or not.
Really?
Never really discussed drums.
You never asked him how he got so good?
No, it was almost we understood each other from the get-go. And
you never said, hey, how'd you get so good? How'd you get great?
Well, I think it was the inspiration of, I think it comes down to
he
love
never
and
took
emotion.
any lessons. He never took any lessons. He was 18 months old in a vaudeville act, had his own act, and he was doing it himself. Yeah. I mean, he just went on from there. I mean, and then all of a sudden he shows up at the Hickory House, at the Hickory House, where they said, listen, you let this kid play because this kid can play. He could play his ass off.
Yeah, I mean.
And it was unbelievable what he did that night.
Well, you got to realize, I mean, when he was that kid, that phenom, I mean, that's was
exactly what he was. That was
his spaceship. That was, and he had a gift. Some people. Well, I think everybody's born with a gift, of course, but some people, the drive is so. It's an amazing drive from when you're a kid. And all of a sudden you're in it. You're going. You're doing it. I'm
going to tell you a story.
And that was him. He just
check this out.
Right on doing it. And
I want to tell you a story. I have a friend of mine. He's like a pretty famous fellow. His name is Peter Lemongello.
Okay, I've heard the name.
Okay. Here's a cat that was a drummer in the 60s. Okay? Mm-hmm. He gets tied up in the draft. He goes into the Marines. He goes to Vietnam, comes back on his on the end of his tour. They send him to Hawaii to, I guess, rehabilitate whatever they've got to do. And he checks out a show. Actually, he checks out two shows. Checks out one with Buddy Rich.
Wow.
and Buddy was playing, with his band, and it was at that point that he said, "I'm no longer a drummer."
Oh yeah, well,
because
sure.
I could never play like that.
Absolutely. I mean,
could never play like that, so I'm never going to be a drummer. And then he checked out another show called Don Ho, and Don Ho was so drunk one night that he said, "Is there anybody in the audience that could help me out here?" And Peter said, "Yeah, I know a few tunes. I could sing." And he came up in his uniform, and he sat down and he sang with Don Ho. And Don Ho said, "Listen, where you going, kid? You're a great singer."
Well,
and
you see,
that's how he started. But that's a great story.
It's sometimes the path you take. There's a great song George Harrison wrote on his Brainwashed album. If you don't know where you're going, any road will take you there. And that's so true sometimes if you have the belief. That's what my record's all about. The hero in us all is your aunt, your grandfather, Bernie Williams hitting the home run out. But then there's the police officer. There's the guy at the bar that tells you his life story in 10 minutes. I mean, all those people make up. There goes the phone. It's ringing there. Maybe it's an angel. It's a wonderful life.
Yeah, you're not kidding, man. And I got to tell you, man, your CD is just absolutely beautiful, man.
Well, I mean, those are all my heroes that I listened to all my life, and I never dreamed that all your buddies would come for you. I mean, Fred Lipsius, Lou Soloff. I remember Bobby Colombi. Talk about great drumming. He's the one that got me in Blood, Sweat, and Tears to tour with them in '79, and Bobby is one of the great drummers, and Buddy loved Bobby, and you have Olatunji, Drums of Passion. My God, that was the standard for every rock and roll band, from the Allman Brothers to the Beatles. I mean, he brought African music to the United States, and I knew Baba, and recorded with him, but knew him since I was 15. So
wow.
You got to realize when you're with Buddy,
wow.
All these people, Mr. Sinatra or the Yankees, you kind of were in this. It was no agenda for me. It was almost like you were put here in a very spiritual way to do something, to contribute, to serve, and that's what all artists are supposed to do, is just serve and contribute. And that was Buddy. He says, as long as jazz lives, he would tell me, the band's working, doing okay, everything's fine, but as long as jazz lived, he would always think of the team picture all the time, and that's how he inspired all those young kids from Berkeley. Or you're walking down the street and I'm looking to have Phil Woods sign my program, watching him play, great Phil Woods, and he looks at me, he goes, "I know who you are. You're Buddy Rich's friend." I got to tell you, Rick, when that meant more to me than anything, because when you're a friend, I think you get more out of it. If you're humble, you're courteous, you have manners, someone will tell you all the secrets you want to know, and that was the thing about Buddy. If you went at him straight, he'd give you the secrets of show business. He'd tell you the art of playing with emotion, not technical emotion, stick control. But I asked him once, how do I play? And he gave me a couple of, one is the guy in the back. He says, how you play? You play to the guy in the back. And I said, what guy in the back? He says, the guy in the back that can't afford the front row seat, that's working 2 or 3 jobs a night, supporting 3 or 4 kids. And I said, is he out there every night? He goes, every night. And he looks at me with that beautiful smile before he goes on. And here I am, just spellbound, the guy in the back. And so all my life I've always played to the gal or the guy in the back. And that was Buddy. Or let in the guys or the gals that can't afford the ticket. If you're playing a show, like if I was playing with B.B. King, or you're playing with, whoever you're playing with, Roy Buchanan or something, let somebody in. Let some kid in. That's I gave my record to Willie Nelson, one of my heroes, and Willie looked at the picture of Mr. Mantle on the cover and the hero in us all, and he says, "What's your album about, Jack?" And I was shaking, because here's my hero. He wrote some of the songs that'll give people courage, inspiration forever. And I go,
sure.
It's about being let in, Willie. And he just looks at me and he says, that's what it's all about, Jack. And he holds up my record, and I have this beautiful picture of him holding up my record, and the great Willie Nelson, who I adore. I mean, it's that I don't know if we'll see the like of Buddy and these people again, but we have the records, but that's what Mr. Cooper said. I don't know if we'll see his like. I mean, Buddy was on the Muppet Show. Jim Henson adored Buddy, wanted him to play drums with Kermit the Frog and Animal. That's legend.
Yeah.
He went right, through. He broke all the boundaries. He became, he transcended. He became truly. He was a star.
Oh,
Buddy, I mean, a real star, not a celebrity like now. And he was a star. And those people come around once. And
well, that's what I was talking about before. You got people like Buddy Rich, Gene Krupa, Elvis, Sinatra.
Oh.
You'll never see people like that again doing the things that they were doing, man.
No, and Mr. Sinatra, I mean, was absolute magic.
Just incredible, man. Just incredible. Now, just to think that Sinatra and Buddy were rooming together.
Right, I mean,
talk about opposite magnets, you know what I mean? Repelling each other. I mean, who is the star? I'm the star. No, I'm the star. They were constantly fighting.
That's.
But they loved each other, too, because in the end...
I mean, he did Mr. Sinatra did the eulogy for Buddy, and they adored each other.
That's what I mean.
Those were, I think, in those young days, with the Pied Pipers and Buddy, and here comes this incredibly talented guy from Hoboken, and all the legend that you read over and over and over in the books. But then when you got to see what I got to see, and he would just when Mr. Sinatra would introduce Buddy, he would bow to him and then give him a kiss, and it was really you saw the admiration and love between these two guys,
and that's something.
And to see that, and to see them backstage at Radio City Music Hall. Someone asked me, what is one of the sexiest things you've ever seen? I said, one of the sexiest things I've ever seen is Buddy Rich and Frank Sinatra smoking some cigarettes in tuxedos, dressed to the nines, talking to each other before they're going out to do the concert of the century with Diana Ross and Pavarotti.
Wow.
And I looked, and you're a kid, of course you're in the tux because Buddy said you got to get the tux tonight. And you're just sitting in a chair with him, and you're seeing Mr. Sinatra, and he was absolute magic. I mean, I said this a lot of times, but he's the only one, Mr. Sinatra, that I listen to that soothes me when I have to take that long ride when I say goodbye to my friends. And his voice is you'll never hear that voice again. And thank God we have the records, but. The two of them on the stage together or talking together or just being with each other was unbelievable to look at and see the brotherhood that they shared and all that history they created. But Mr. Sinatra would always have him, on the show. And, when you'd leave the Yankee locker room, when I'd leave the Yankee locker room, we'd go to the Brendan Byrne Arena there or Carnegie or Madison Square Garden or something. You'd say, you'd be with Thurman. You'd be with Catfish, you'd be with Guidry, Randolph, Billy, and then all of a sudden you're getting in your car and you're going to see Buddy Rich and Frank Sinatra, and that went for 20 years.
Wow.
In a sense, when they were touring together, and you saw such admiration and love between those two men. That
there was a lot of admiration and a lot of love, man.
And when he was fighting the adversity, who was there? With the quadruple bypass when Buddy had that, who was there? Mr. Sinatra and Mr. Carson.
Yes.
And and no fanfare or anything. They just calling for their friend.
Yeah.
And I learned an amazing thing. It's almost like when you have a buddy like Joe Namath or Buddy Rich, or there's a loyalty. There's a loyalty there that you bring to, you give people that don't have the chance to be around these great men and great women, but you bring something of the truth to someone who doesn't get it. They don't get it in print, because a lot of the times people write things and they never were there.
You're right.
or they, they say what they want to say. But the beauty of watching him and seeing him talk, there was a guy told me a story of he played a high school once, Buddy. He mesmerized these children, and they didn't know what to do because he was on the side, whatever the high school, how the stage was, and the father said all he saw was each kid lining up and just hugging him. And to me, I was crying.
That's amazing.
Kids didn't know what to do. They just had to line up and hug him. And he was extraordinary in the way he gave to so many kids. He loved kids. I mean, Ron Guidry would play drums. When we play drums in the stadium, I'd give him the BR shirt, Buddy Rich. He put it under the pinstripes, and he'd pitch a two-hitter with the BR shirt. And he had Yankees Magazine. There was an article on him in the BR shirt, and I remember going to New Haven on the green and being with him. And before he went on, I showed him that, and he just welled up. And then danced to the thousands that were there. He was just so proud. I mean, he loved the Yankees. He loved Jackie Robinson. He loved baseball. He just loved anybody, he said to me, who did anything good. And I asked him once, it was towards the end, where you get that thing in your throat and you don't know why, and he played, he was the hero's hero to me because he played at a level at 68 years old that I don't think I will ever see somebody, including myself. I mean, to be at that level of playing like you're 23 years old.
He was ferocious.
Yeah, and and I finally said to him, I said, we were sitting at the apartment, and I said, what's it like, I finally did it after a lifetime, what's it like to be, and I was stumbling and mumbling my words, looking at him, and he was in a robe, and he was spinning a lighter, and looking at me with this beautiful, loving face, and he knows I'm getting, to ask something that's out of the ordinary for me here, And I said, what's it like to be the world's greatest drummer? You're the world's. What's that like? He says, if I was the world's greatest anything, would I have a friend like you sitting there next to me? I said, no, wait a minute.
Wow.
I said, didn't Arnold Palmer say if I had Buddy Rich's wrists, I'd win every tournament? And he's spinning that lighter. He goes, yeah. And I said, well, didn't Muhammad Ali say if I had Buddy Rich's hands, I'd be champ forever? Yes, he did. And I said, well, isn't that being the greatest? He goes, Jack. He says, I'm 68 years old. And if you've spread any goodness to anybody, anywhere, that's being the world's greatest.
Wow.
That's what he said.
Wow, that's incredible, man.
And that's why I believe...
Wow, how humbling is that?
Oh, no, and that's why I believe he played for everybody. He was universal. I mean, when you saw him with the brushes, and when you saw the blue light hit, and the trombone solo came, and that slow blues happened, you'd see such passion in the man's face. I mean, his face was a movie reel, I say on my album, of his generation. His face told a story, and the drums were just around him. But he was the guy that was throwing the ball. He was throwing strikes every night. Every night. I mean, I've never and then he would try to top himself all the time, unknowingly. But he would try it, and he would very rarely say he did something special. The only time I heard him say that in a lifetime was with Mr. Sinatra at New Haven Coliseum, and he enthralled everybody. I mean, it was a perfect game. And I went into the bus, and he said, Jack, did you see what I did tonight? I did something special tonight. I said, yes, I felt it. And he we just sat and put on the television in the bus, and everything went on, like it's supposed to. The musicians come in and
holy smoke! Are you kidding me? After playing that, you just went on and watched TV?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
We'd watch the ball game, or, we'd watch...
Holy smoke, I'd be up like jumping around or something. I don't know, I'd be out of my mind or something, playing with Sinatra.
I got to tell you, the bus was magical. Steve Peck, the great
Holy smoke.
You got the great Steve Marcus. I was the kid. There was Buddy. There was
you toured with these guys.
And here it was like it was the coziest. It was like home. And then he would do the one-liners. Buddy was incredible comedic, fast wit, as you know. I mean, with Mr. Carson. But he would he would go with one-liners. And Steve Marcus was like the straight man. He would laugh. I couldn't believe this. Life felt so good. And Steve Peck was kind of like, he would do the one-liners back at Buddy. So they'd go into this beautiful tennis match of theater. All the while, all the kids that are in the band are coming, through the bus. And here we are, and we're watching, I think, a Sean Connery, James Bond movie as we're just having a ball. I mean, it's just like the locker room, you after a win, you're just having fun. The music's turned up. You just have that great feeling, and there's Sean Connery in a tuxedo, and he's going through all these jumping over bridges and everything, and Buddy's we're all laughing because not a speck of dirt is on the tux. and of course, Sean Connery was a big admirer of Buddy's, and Buddy admired Sean Connery, and I heard he came to see him one night, and he went, Buddy baby, and Buddy just went Sean baby, and this is what Kathy told me, and all that good stuff, that admiration. I don't think you see that as much today as it was back then. Because
you don't have the guys that you had then today. That's true, man. You don't have the people like Buddy Rich or Gene Krupa or Frank Sinatra. Artie Shaw. You don't have these, Benny Goodman. You don't have these guys today.
I mean, I brought...
These guys understood music, man.
The great Irv Kotler, who's a gentleman's gentleman. What a drummer. I mean, I took my girlfriend backstage, and I just wanted her to meet a drummer's drummer, Irv Kotler. And so she said, "Oh, you were so wonderful tonight." And I said to Irv, I said, would you tell her how many years you've been with Mr. Sinatra? He goes, "Oh, wait a minute, Jack. What did you think of the kid?" Meaning Buddy. Because he loved Buddy, adored Buddy. Yeah. And he said, "Well, I've been with Frank over 25 years.
Wow.
I said, "How many movie scores did you do?" He said, "Oh, movie scores over 3,000.
Wow.
And, she said 3,000 movie scores. I said, "That's a musician." And he was a beautiful, humble spirit and one of the great drummers. And Buddy would always kid her because he would stand so straight up, chewing the gum, and Buddy would get on him backstage and say, "Why don't you hunch over like me and Jack when we play?" And he says, "Buddy, I can't do that. This is the way I play." And they were like kids, playing ball at the Sandlot. They never lost that humility or the child in them. So Buddy was really, he was like a man-child. I mean, he really had such an innocence about him, like that. I think that was the joyful, playful guy that played those drums like that, as well as that the guy that let's dig in and let's go for it all, or the master teacher, like I'm giving 100%. And maybe 110, so you got to give me 100%. And that's all he wanted. He wanted everybody to contribute. His name was the Marquis, but he wanted everybody to contribute on the same level that he's contributing. And that's the boss. That's the captain.
That is exactly what I loved about him. I loved about him that he always gave 110%, and he expected everybody else to give the same.
Always, and until the last in '87 at the Blue Note. I mean, every performance I believe was he was perfect.
That's got to be like a drummer's thing, because drummers believe that, man. Drummers believe that when you go out there to give a show, that you give the best show, no matter how many times you're doing that show. You give the best show you possibly can, And you'll always have some other musician in the band saying, well, I'm a little tired tonight or something like that, But a drummer will always say, hey, man, because they got to get themselves up, for the gig.
I mean,
do it.
The singer, I would tell one of the great rock and roll drummers, my buddy Joey Kramer of Aerosmith, I said, the singer can't sing unless the drummer deals the cards. The drummer's he's the gasoline station. He's the pump.
Yeah.
And of course, Joey is the backbeat.
Without a doubt.
But that's what the drummer's job is to do. Buddy used to say, well, the drummer's job is to contribute to the band, to support the soloist, to contribute to the chart, and then at the end, if the drummer is supposed to solo, then that's the last thing he's supposed to do. So, a lot of people see Buddy as this incredible soloist, which absolutely his, genius. He's the greatest natural genius on a set of drums, absolutely. But they should also see and listen in between the charts how tasteful, how dynamic, how simplistic he was, the way he played, the touch that he had. One time in the Meadowlands, he came on the stage, Steve Peck and I, we were on the stage, and, he was checking out the drums, and he's so, I can see him right now with the members-only jacket and walking over there, and he just hit the cymbal, and it resonated through the whole building. And he wasn't mic'd, like all the drummers are mic'd with 20 mics.
Yeah.
And that's what I learned from him, is you just put the set up there. You need a sound check. Well, okay, but, I know my job. I know what I got to do. And you just play. And that was it. And Buddy was that kind of guy. Let's take care of business, play, get in, get out. And then let's watch the ball game. Let's go to the game. I mean, there was a story with, Ron Guidry when he came to see the Yanks with me. And he asked, I said to Ron, you're pitching, against Boston. Your buddy's upstairs. And he goes, okay, well, let's go. I go, but you're 60,000 people. You got Boston. He goes, Buddy's up there. Let's go. So he goes up there, and Buddy never forgot it. I mean, his eyes welled up. He was very emotional, that the respect. And Guidry adores him to this day. And came up. But as everyone saw, Ron Guidry, Louisiana Lightning, is in the press room here, and all the, season ticket holders are going to the elevator. Ron starts signing a whole bunch of balls and ticket stubs and everything else, and the kids are going wild. And then finally, Buddy's on the right side, I'm on the left, and Ron, kid comes over from Toms River, New Jersey. He's got to be 9, 10 maybe. And Ron, he says, Mr. Guidry, will you sign this ball? And he says, not unless this gentleman signs it first. And then Buddy says, he's too young to know who I am. And Ron goes, who's the world's greatest drummer? And the kid goes, Buddy Rich.
There you go.
And he puts the ball to Buddy and sign it. And
wow.
But yeah, I mean, those stories, and then with the Papa Joe Jones, when Joe Jones came to see him at the Bottom Line, Buddy said, take care of him, Jack. And here's this genius, the man who, Buddy said, that night at the Bottom Line, taught me how to swing on the hi-hats, was
wow.
Joe Jones.
Wow.
Told that to the crowd. And there's Joe Jones, so humble, and he came in, I'll never forget it, so beautiful, with that face, with the sticks and brushes tucked underneath his arm of his suit jacket.
Jeez.
And then Buddy brought him up. And Rick, I got to tell you, there wasn't. I mean, Steve Peck and I, we had tears in our eyes because he put him up to play, and that I think was the last time he played before he passed. And Buddy put him up,
man.
Probably knowing, and he said what he said to the crowd, and most of the crowd didn't know who really was on that stage.
Wow.
But a legend and one of the greatest drummers of all time. So he played this amazing solo, Joe Jones, looking right at Buddy with tears in his eyes, and Buddy had tears in his eyes. And then the crowd was getting a little restless, and Buddy got a little bit, agitated because he wanted Joe Jones to enjoy himself, and when he was finished, that would be it. So he made Joe Jones finish, but he built up this incredible drum solo, and you saw the greatness of Joe Jones. It was like an oil painting. You saw what made him transcend with the Basie band. And Buddy wanted to give him that, and they had this love, just like Mr. Sinatra, that eye contact, that unspokenness. And that was what we had. We had a subliminal understanding. That kind of thing, that when it happens between people is the most beautiful thing. So he finished, and I took him off the stage and hugged him and kissed him, and then Buddy closes because he was a bit agitated because, you know, he doesn't like when you rumble or you know, that one line where are you in my band? He says no. Then get your feet the hell off my stage. So those one lines. But you know, you've been here like what? How many times? How many nights? You must know the whole book. You want to play? You know, I mean, he would do that. And, you know, everybody would get like, you know, but that's like a Billy Martin. You know, we want to win the game here. We don't want to slack off. We want to win the World Series. So,
True.
So when Buddy closed, he closed Channel 1 without the long ending, the short ending. And, man, the role was so fierce, and the passion was so intense. And then when he built that roll up, he shut that door, and it was almost like a shotgun, boom, and that was it. And then he finished. The crowd was mesmerized, but then he grabbed me, and we went backstage, and he wanted Joe Jones to tell me how hard he worked and what he did to make it with the Basie band, and he gave the whole show to Mr. Jones. And then Steve Landesberg was right next to him, and he couldn't believe it. And I love Steve Landesberg, Barney Miller, and Willard Alexander, who was half asleep, but he was listening in. But Buddy gave, you know, the whole thing to Joe Jones.
Wow.
Just was like, he wanted Joe to tell me, Mr. Jones to tell me, the 5 sets a night he would play with the Basie band, and how the road was, and how he cut the road for all of us. And that was Buddy. I mean, he would put himself 10th on the order to help the rest of the 9 players, and that's really the team game philosophy of why he played the way he did, and who the man was. He was the ultimate, like Willie Randolph. What Willie did with the Mets this year, he transcended the Mets back to the people.
Incredibly,
you know, that was.
Incredible.
You know, the spirit in the game is what the Mets did this year.
Yep.
That was the spirit of baseball.
Without a doubt.
That was Buddy. That was the old school of, you know, Baby Dodds and Dave Tuff and all the guys that he emulated, tried to learn from. And his guy that he admired, I think really most of all, aside from Gene Krupa, was Chick Webb.
Wow.
Chick Webb went on in spite of all the adversity, and I probably, if I was to guess, when he had the adversity with the, you know, the heart attacks and everything, I bet you he thought about Chick Webb going on with, you know, all that adversity and still playing, you know. So I know he was a big hero to Buddy, and not just in drums, and so was you know, Mr. Krupa. Mr. Krupa loved the Yankees, and I think Marie Rich told me that Buddy, that was our love too with the Yanks, and he would call me Jack of the Yankees when Kathy would call. He said, "Who you talking to?" And oh, Jack of the Yankees. He stopped by, and so he wanted to invite Mr. Krupa, I think, and his wife, Mr. Krupa's wife, said he's a little tired, but thanks, Buddy. And then he passed the next day, but Buddy wanted to invite him to a Yankee game before he passed. All that human spirit, I think, makes the player. Makes the drummer, and I think Buddy was all of these things. We go to Gray Papaya before it got really known. The bus would come after the gigs. We couldn't wait to go to Victor's. He would call it Victor's because I think the Cleaners, when he was with the Dorsey or Harry James band, was the block up. So he'd always call Gray Papaya's Victor's. So I mean, it was almost like we were in this little dream, and we couldn't wait to get, you know, the gourmet dog for 25 cents. Back then, it was 25 cents.
Wow.
And Mel Lewis would be on. I mean, the great Mel Lewis. I mean, talk about a drummer, talk about a man. And he said in his apartment for the Buddies Memorial, he said, "Look, I'm going to Europe with my band, Jack. I want you to say my words." And that was one of the biggest honors of my life.
Jeez.
Because Mel Lewis,
yeah.
and there's millions and millions of musicians, that owe a debt to Mel Lewis.
Yep.
Well, as well as Buddy and Krupa, Mel is one of the greats. And so he was a gentle soul. But here we are. Could you imagine, Rick, in the bus eating great papaya dogs?
Wow, that's incredible.
Like kids.
That's incredible.
And Barry Kiner was on the bandstand, and he was a genius on that piano. And and Marcus, we met, and I'm glad we're friends forever, you and me. Steve was. Steve
was incredible, man.
He was the second voice, and
without a doubt.
What a genius Steve Marcus was. I mean, I heard him, the guy that's on my album, Morale Coriel, which is Larry Coriel's son, the great Morale Coriel. I mean, he's just amazing. But Journey to the Higher Consciousness was Larry Coriel's album, Barefoot Boy. And I listened to Journey of the Higher Consciousness with the great Roy Haynes on drums. I can't tell you, it's like 500 times, a week. And it's Steve Marcus on soprano sax. And I would always tell Steve, you don't know that I've been listening to you all my life, and this Barefoot Boy and Larry Coriel and Steve, once again, humble. Yeah, that was a great album. That was a great song. And same with Buddy. When you get to that level of player, there's such humility and there's such giving it up. I mean, they would always give it up to me, or try to teach me something, but not teaching, just approaching or listening. Or that was the genius of Buddy, and that's why he motivated so many people. Gary Mulligan told me backstage. I brought a chart to him. I think it was in Lehman College when Buddy was doing some gig, and Jerry Mulligan was doing it, and he said, I brought an arrangement to him when I was first arranging, and he said, it's too fast, and we argued, and you know what? I said, what, sir? He goes, he was right. My chart was too fast. Time signature was too fast.
Wow.
And all these stories, I mean, he was
incredible.
He picked up on things faster, with a depth of conviction like no other. I guess that's just the way his heart was as big as Yankee Stadium, and he would never, at least with me, I mean, he would never, he would always teach you, don't show up your friends. And I never forgot that. Even though you're playing and you're doing what you're doing, you humbly just keep going. That's what he would tell me. He says, just keep playing. As long as you're working, just play. Everybody knows, what you're contributing. I tell them. I said, as people would say to him at the Chatterbox on Seaside Heights or whatever, the owner would come in, hey, buddy, who's the guy on drums? And he would go, Jack Scarangella. And then when I'd hit the Chatterbox, the guy would say that to me. And so all these stories I have, like the only time I played with him was at the Shaboo in Willimantic. My dear friend David Foster, who stars in the Mohegan Sun All-Stars, but we were in a band, the Shaboo All-Stars, from the club, with Matt Guitar Murphy from the Blues Brothers, Charles Calmese from Muddy Waters' Hard Again album, Steve Miller, Derek Dyer from Tina Turner, and it was just an incredible band, Shelton Laster from Gloria Gaynor. So anyway, he said, I'm going to book Jack, and my band was Marty David from Van Morrison, Hard Nosed Highway, Jackie Lomax on bass, and Jim Satin, Eddie Kendricks, Jerry Lee, great guitarist, studio guy in New York. And I just put up a trio. I couldn't believe that I was actually going to open the Buddy. And I think I gave him a Yankee jacket that night, and I did the solo, Rick. He didn't do a solo.
Wow.
And he closed with Birdland, because now that I remember, it is a father-son love story, that's for sure. But I said, as I took the mic, very nervously, I said, being on the stage with Buddy Rich is like meeting Joe DiMaggio for the first time.
Yeah.
He was on the side in the Yankee jacket, and he heard that. And that's the truth. And all he asked for, I think, in life is the truth and respect, because that's really who he is. And Sammy Davis Jr., Jerry Lewis, I mean, Johnny Carson, you name it. All the jazz, Blakey, Elvin Jones said to me in the Blue Note, when I went to see Elvin, he looks at me and he says, Buddy Rich. And he looks at me and goes, Jack, I knew him. Could you imagine?
Wow.
Could you imagine the humility? And nobody played like Elvin, you know.
Nobody. Well, Buddy did.
Yeah, I mean, you know what
I got to give it to Buddy, man, because Elvin was great. But Buddy was the greatest, man.
Oh, Buddy, as I said, was like a swirl. He was like a Monet.
He was just unbelievable, man. He was just, I got a CD. I don't know if I told you about it. I got a CD. It's a collector's CD. Right. It's Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa's first drum battle that they ever had in 1952 at the New York Philharmonic. And there were like 30,000 people, and Gene Krupa's band was playing, and they were going to have this drum battle in between a break, and all of a sudden, Buddy gave Gene the first op to go, and Gene did his thing, and it was really cool, man. Then all of a sudden, you hear this rumbling, like, you hear this drums, this drum roll that was just incredible, that just sounded like thunder, man, and it just came out of nowhere, and that was Buddy, man.
Well, I mean,
and you heard someone say, "Go, Buddy, go!"
If you look at, he was an extraordinary tap dancer when he was, and he would sometimes, when he go over to England, he loved, Ronnie Scott's, and he loved England.
He did
the audiences, but I mean, his bass drum signature kicks within the band. I would sometimes watch him from above. If it was the bottom line, you got this little ladder, and I just watched him one night, and the kicks and the left hand were extraordinary. It was almost like a water. It was almost like if you put your hand in water, you swirl your hand around. That's the way he played.
That's incredible, man.
And that's it's indescribable. You really, when people see him, he becomes like a cloud, a dream, or a swirl of colors, because if anybody was lucky enough to see him, that's what most people go away with. They go away with, they don't know what to put into words. It's like way beyond conversation, way beyond drums. That's the way he was when he played. He was just. It was almost so artistic. And you knew you were watching something that was mesmerizing, because I would look at his face all the time, and he would check. When I'd be on the side of the stage, he'd look at me, give me a little look, or he'd look at Steve Peck. He played to Steve Peck, and then he played to some, little kid on the side. He would play around the room, and then he'd look up at the band. He was just in control in such a soulful way that it was mesmerizing, because you'd look right at him and you didn't think anything was going on, because it was this beautiful, serene, kind of flourishing kind of thing that he was playing. And then, of course, you'd hear, amazing, thunderous, but pristine, fast, smooth, drum rolls that were just seasoned through his entire life. Rim shots that were like logs going over, crackling. It just was, it was almost like oil paintings. And then you after the whole thing was over, it left you with such a contentment. It wasn't like, there are very few musicians, artists of that magical ability. Same with Mr. Sinatra or Miles Davis. When you see Miles, you're captivated by the man. And then all of a sudden, the show is over, but he took you around the globe. That's what Buddy did. And all of a sudden, it's over in this one, if it's West Side or it's Channel 1, whatever he closed with, and then the encore. It just, when I saw him in Central Park when he did Ruth. And that was one of my favorite tracks off the Buddy and Soul album. I asked Marie Rich, I said, Ruth, I used to love to hear Ruth when he played Ruth. He goes, well, do you know how he got the name Ruth for that song, Jack? And I go, no. He says he was with Johnny one night, and he says, we're having trouble thinking up a name for this chart. He says to Johnny, what's your mother's name? And Johnny goes, Ruth. It was okay, that's the name of the chart.
Wow.
That's the way it all went.
Wow.
But the commitment to the art of jazz, I think the cost was very high, but he contributed as a messenger to the original. He's one of the originals. I mean, he really is the hero's hero of drums. There's nobody, or of someone lasting, I think, at such I mean, if you want to call it star level, superstar. I mean, everybody came to see him till the last time he played on the planet. So he was true to himself, and as a result, all of us, Rick, for the rest of our lives. And that is truly, I mean, he's my hero. I mean, he's my dad, but very few people can last at 68 years old and still go out at the top of their game, to God. That I think is the inspiration for, and you don't have to be famous. You don't have to hit the home run out. That's what my album, The Hero in Us All, is about. You can obtain that, with your family, with someone who's down on their luck. I mean, Billy Martin was similar to Buddy. He always stuck up for the little guy like me who never got a break in life. That was Buddy. That was Billy Martin. Those are those heroes, different caliber of man. And that was Buddy Rich. And that's why he plays like this, or that's why when a kid sees a film, I put on, a tape of Buddy, there's an 8-year-old going, he's mesmerized. He can't believe that someone like this exists. It's better than Disney to him. And that's an amazing thing, to be able to get into somebody's mind and heart at the same time. And Buddy did that and still does. It's 20 years after. And I'm talking like I just was with him. And maybe that's because of you, because you're a beautiful guy, and you can feel the love that you have for him. And maybe that's easy for me to talk, thanks to someone as loving as you. And you can easily talk about someone that you loved for a lifetime and missed for your lifetime. But
well, you're going to bring tear to my eyes. You got to quit talking like that, because I got to tell you the truth, man. I really love Buddy Rich, man. And, I only know him through people like you and through what I see on TV and also all the albums that I have of him.
Yep.
And I've only tried to emulate him all my life. And it's it really is heartfelt, to talk to someone like you.
Well, I mean, that's the thing that then we win together. So who's ever listening to this program, this beautiful program of truth, will get something other than when they listen to Buddy. They'll see that the man behind the drums, behind the illustrious career, that he always played for the underdog. I asked him once, a second time, I said, I was recording or something, and I said, I'm having a little trouble. How would I play this, recording, this kind of, he says, relax, Jack. He says, you play like you're waltzing your best girl around the dance floor.
Wow.
You hold her tight, not too tight, just tight enough to waltz her around the dance floor.
Wow.
And he hugs me. And then I get it. That was him. I mean, he painted pictures in life everywhere he was, with every country. In Japan, no matter where he was, people were enthralled with this phenomenon. I mean, Bob Dylan. You can name B.B. King. I mean, he had such reverence. When I say, I played with Muddy Waters, he would just say the name with such reverence in the bus, Muddy Waters. Like, wow. muddy waters. And he understood, every medium. That's what he told me. He said, make sure you play every medium, Jack. Experience it all. And I said, really? I mean, and that's what he didn't like, putting people in categories. He really was out of that one. He just, you're a musician, you're a drummer. You play everything. You're not a funk drummer. You're not a blues drummer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was universal. You play the art of music. You play the drums, Jack. And that's what got me to put every medium on my record, because I thought, wow, let me tell my story like Buddy said. Let me tell the truth. Let me put jazz, spoken words. Let me put, my heroes of sport. That's part of my life. Everything that Buddy said came, true down the line, because when it came time to do my record, Midnight Cowboy, to me, was Buddy. He was the Midnight Cowboy. He was the guy that, wanted to go to Miami. We all want to go to Miami. We're all trying to make it. We're trying to contribute to make somebody's life easier, to do some kindness for someone. That was Buddy. He was that guy that took you away from your job, from your boss, from your illness, and I saw it all. I saw everybody come to that bus, and they had a lot of, adversity. They had, some, and he would be there to just put a blanket over them with his playing, with his understanding, and he put you away. He put you away. He'd make you forget about your troubles. You'd go away content. And then there was this, then you'd zoom in on some of the incredible flutters of, like when you'd watch Ali or Namath, throw a pass, 50-mile-an-hour winds, and he faded back like, how did he do that? And it just was like on a soft pass, but it's 190 yards down the field. It was almost like magical. Same kind of thing. Ali, the left jab. How is that coming that fast? And the way he danced. Same thing with Buddy. Buddy was that same, when he'd flutter with the press roll, when he'd keep the left hand going through a bar of intense soloing and everything. The left hand would just be flying from tom tom to floor tom back to the snare, and the ride is just flying, and the bass drum is kicking every accent of the band, and fast, crisp, and all of a sudden you'd just be mesmerized, and you just sit and take it all in. It would go in you, his drumming, his feel, and him. They would go in the audience. I mean, the audience felt him. Most, jazz guys that I've seen sometimes, they're great players, and they're, but very few get in. He got in all the time, and that's a master. But that's a hero of heroes. And he was 68 and still was playing. I felt, because I saw him every night, and I was with him. We'd go down to the Blue Note. He was playing to, really to spirit every night. Every night he was perfect, and it was a very beautiful thing to see. Every night he got more closer to perfection, but yet he was always around that vicinity. But to him, he didn't get it. So the humble warrior that he always was, he said, no, I didn't get it. He was always trying to go higher, always trying to get better, always trying to to move somebody, and that to me, very few artists have that commitment. Sometimes music today, I can't see it, you can't feel it. What is it? But the emotion of a Buddy Rich show, everybody had to play, and then that's why you get Sammy Davis Jr. at the telethons with Jerry Lewis. You'll never, I hope you'll see this for many years. Jerry would say, and there's Sammy Davis standing up, standing ovation. You're seeing, and these are the greatest talents of the 20th century. But what are they doing? They're looking at the man that cut the road, Traps the Drum Wonder. I mean, he was, and then he remembered Sammy with the Will Masterson Trio.
Yeah.
And he would go right at Sammy, and Sammy would be like so humble, looking at Buddy with such love, because he Buddy remembered everything. He said, I remember the first gig you guys played. And that was he never forgot anything. His mind was, and maybe that's why he didn't need to read music, because, he wrote the book on all of it. I mean, people would notate the solos. He'd kid them. He says, no, I didn't play that. And they'd go, no, this is what we notated here. He says, no, I played this. And then he'd look at me and he'd go, mommy, daddy with the stick.
The man is Jack Scarangella. The dad is Buddy Rich. The CD is The Hero in Us All, and you can get more at this at www.theheroinusall.com. And Jack Scarangella, thank you so much, man, for spending this time with us.
Well, Rick, thank you, and you're a friend as we go further up the road. Thank you for this time and to speak about our hero.
Thank you, man. Let's rock it out. Jack Scarangella, what a great guy, man. Buddy's adopted son. Not legally, but all the same, Buddy's son. Thank you, Jack Scarangella, and I hope to be talking with you again real soon, man. Well, folks, that's it. That's all she wrote, man. This was a long show, man. We had like 79 minutes, man, like 35 seconds just on that interview talk. Unbelievable, man, but I thought it was worth every minute of it, man, because just to get those insights, man, of Buddy Rich. Only a guy like Jack Scarangella, Buddy's adopted son, would actually know that, man. He's been spending all that time with him. Unbelievable. That's it, man. That's all she wrote. I'm glad you stayed. I'm glad you hung in there with me, man. It was a long show, but like I said, well worth it. Next week on the Drum Radio Show, Jason Bittner, man. Jason Bittner. So be sure to be here. Same drum channel, www.drumradio.com. Same drum station, www.drumradio.com. Be here, Whitman, or be square. Okay, before I go, I'd like to thank all those that helped bring this show to you folks tonight, man. Thank you, Jack Scarangella, and I really hope to be seeing you real soon, man. Thank you, Sam Milano, and for the use of your jokes, man. Thank you very much, and good luck with that, man. Jeff, thank you, Jeff Indyke, man, and take a look at Jeff Indyke, man. He's the cat that's doing all the good drum stuff, man, and don't take him too seriously, man. He's a great drummer, and he's donating his time as a comedian. Okay, so thank you, Bob Henrit, man, with Crash Boom Band. Thank you, the rock icon. Come on, a piece. Thank you, Nestle Clerch, our fantastic webmaster. Thank you, Dennis, the guru of internet marketing. Thank you, Terry Silverlight and Band, for our great theme music, man. Thank you. And thank you to all of you who listen to my show, man. Thank you so very, very much. And remember, never, 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 ever, 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 ever give up on your dreams, man. Because if you follow your dreams, they will become your reality. This is Rick Kiss, signing off for the very famous Drum Radio Show, saying, kiss off, baby. Until next week, man. See ya. See ya, I hope. Ciao, man. See you next week. Thank you for listening to the Drum Radio Show. This has been a live production, copyright 2006 with the U.S. Library of Congress. Thank you.